Chosen one, listen carefully, because what I'm about to say carries the weight of destiny. In the days ahead, the very blood of your family will rise up against you with one cry, impossible. They will mock, they will doubt, they will stare in disbelief. But do not be deceived. The louder their voices scream, impossible, the louder heaven thunders, it is already done. This is not a gentle encouragement. This is a prophetic warning. Ignore it, and you risk stepping out of alignment with the very miracle that was designed for you before time began. Receive it, and you will witness God overturn generations of lack, silence, and shame in a single moment. Comment 777 below as a declaration that you refuse to miss this divine eruption. And to every warrior who has stood with us, even sowing through your super thanks, your obedience has become a weapon in the unseen realm. I honor you. I thank you. You are part of this holy fire. Stay alert, chosen one, because what unfolds next is not just about blessing, it is about exposure. The secret God is about to unveil will explain why your battle has been so violent, why the resistance has been so fierce. What your family calls impossible will soon be the very proof that God Himself has marked you. And the revelation begins now. God's chosen ones, your family will scream, impossible. But God just did it. They have never seen anyone in your family rise like this before. For years, perhaps even for centuries, your bloodline has carried patterns of lack, limitation, and ceilings that no one dared to break. The walls of impossibility seemed permanent, as if etched in stone. But now, in this very hour, something is shifting so radically that your family will look at you and cry out, impossible. Yet God has already done it. The cycle is breaking, and you are the evidence. And when this happens, the very atmosphere in your household begins to tremble because heaven itself has introduced a new frequency. Can you feel how destiny shakes the ground beneath generational chains? This is no ordinary season. It is the moment where everything written against you is being rewritten in God's ink. The psalmist once declared, "The stone which the builders rejected has become the cornerstone." Psalm 118, verse 22. Could it be that you, the one overlooked and underestimated, are being raised up as that cornerstone for your family line? How will they respond when they see that the person they dismissed as ordinary becomes the one carrying extraordinary favor? Their questions, their doubts, and even their laughter will not be rooted in truth, but in fear of what they cannot explain. For every whisper of doubt, God is shouting a greater testimony, and just as the cornerstone holds the weight of the entire building, your rising breakthrough becomes the structure on which others will stand. Doesn't it amaze you that what others rejected is now becoming the very foundation? This is the mystery of divine intervention. Your family may attempt to analyze your sudden breakthrough the way a scientist examines data in a laboratory. Yet, just as no microscope can capture the movement of the Spirit, no rational framework can contain the magnitude of God's favor. Remember what the Apostle Paul wrote. "Eye has not seen, nor ear heard, nor has it entered into the heart of man, the things which God has prepared for those who love Him." 1 Corinthians 2:9. If the human heart cannot fully conceive it, how can human logic ever dismantle it? The divine blueprint cannot be charted by equations, because heaven's design operates on laws unknown to earth. What they call irrational is the resonance of divine frequency vibrating in your favor. And as physics bows to higher dimensions, so too will their doubts bow before the evidence of God's hand in your life. At this moment, the very people who mock you are unknowingly fulfilling Scripture. For the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved it is the power of God. 1 Corinthians 1:18. Your miracle will look like foolishness to them because they are bound by cycles of disbelief. But to heaven, it is a testament that the power of God is active in your life. Do you realize how history itself is being rewritten through you right now? And as their voices rise in mockery, they echo the same chorus that mocked Noah as he built the ark, only to drown in their own denial. Your faith, therefore, becomes a prophetic indictment against unbelief, turning their ridicule into proof of God's activity. In today's world, echoes of this truth emerge. The famous Italian painter Caravaggio, once ridiculed for his dark and dramatic style, was dismissed as a rebel who would fade into obscurity, yet his works are now regarded as masterpieces that reshaped the very architecture of Renaissance art. What they once called a scandal, the world now calls brilliance. In the same way, what your family calls impossible today will become the testimony they cannot deny tomorrow. How striking that art itself became a mirror of destiny. What critics rejected became a cathedral of beauty, celebrated for centuries. Doesn't this remind you that God can use what looks broken to illuminate entire generations? But let us not forget the warning woven into stories of downfall. Charles Ponzi, the Italian swindler whose name birthed the term Ponzi scheme. At first, his promises of wealth lured thousands into belief, but soon his deception collapsed, leaving devastation, loss, and shame. His name became a permanent symbol of betrayal. Unlike Ponzi, whose false promises led to destruction, your breakthrough is not built on deceit. It is rooted in divine promise. This contrast matters. Man's fraud builds castles of sand, but God's covenant builds mountains of stone. Which legacy do you want written over your name, ashes or altars? The ruin of Ponzi stands as a warning that when man plays God, destruction follows. Yet when God acts, even the impossible becomes an unshakable reality. Scripture reminds us again, with man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. Matthew 19:26. When the disciples questioned how anyone could be saved, Jesus dismantled their human reasoning with this eternal truth. And now, your story carries the same weight. What your family cannot grasp is not meant for them to explain. It is meant for them to witness. And isn't it remarkable that their disbelief is the very stage God has chosen to magnify His glory? The louder their denial, the brighter His evidence will shine. When they say no way, heaven whispers, watch closely. Nature whispers this mystery. A seed buried in darkness is dismissed as lifeless by those who only see the soil. Yet, in due season, it bursts forth green and alive, defying every prediction of death. Could it be that you're that seed, breaking through the soil of family history to reveal a harvest that no one anticipated? Think of the caterpillar sealed in its cocoon, written off as finished, yet breaking free with wings, meant to astonish the sky. In the same way, your confinement was not your ending. It was preparation for a flight that no one around you could imagine. Remember Joseph's story. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Genesis 50:20. His brothers mocked him, sold him, and labeled him a dreamer. But the very dreamer became the one who preserved a nation. Could it be that your mockers today are unknowingly pushing you into your place of divine preservation? Joseph's pit became his passage, and his prison became his proving ground. And the same voices that scorned him eventually bowed before him, not because Joseph sought revenge, but because God's design was unstoppable. Isn't it extraordinary that betrayal became the very engine of preservation? So rise, chosen one. Do not shrink when your family shouts, "Impossible." Stand taller, for their voices are proof that you are walking in a dimension they cannot measure. Their skepticism is only the echo of chains you've already broken. Today, declare boldly, "This is not my doing, this is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in my eyes." Psalm 118, verse 23. Lift your head high, because you are walking proof that the impossible is God's specialty. And when you rise not only for yourself, but for every future generation that will inherit freedom because you dared to believe. The time for silence is over. The time for courage has come. Stand, for the Lord has already done it. But soon, even those who questioned you will be unable to deny the evidence that radiates from your life. Their doubt, once sharp like thorns, will soften into awe, and the mockery once spoken in whispers will transform into reluctant respect. Why? Because what God is doing in you is not sourced from men. It flows from a fountain higher than every human throne. This transfer of blessing is not the product of coincidence, not the fruit of gambling with fate, and certainly not the reward of human striving. It has been designed, sealed, and released by the author of eternity himself. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights. James 1:17. If heaven is the source, can any earthly hand close the channel? If the creator of galaxies decided your season has arrived, who has the authority to cancel it? And when it comes, the same people who said never will have no choice but to confess, "Surely the Lord has done this." You have been chosen, set apart, and refined for this very moment. It was not random, it was preparation layered in silence, discipline, and even pain. Just as the olive is crushed before it yields oil, your crushing seasons were not for your end, but for your release. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Jeremiah 1:5. Doesn't this shake you to realize that before your family saw you, before your friends doubted you, heaven had already marked you? And if heaven has marked you, do you really need human signatures to authorize what God has already decreed? Even the stars themselves are not consulted before God commands the sunrise. And neither will your critics be consulted before your promise appears. Their resistance cannot undo your preparation. Their silence cannot bury your destiny. Nature itself reveals this truth. The pearl, born in the hidden pain of an oyster, shaped by layers of irritation, and yet unveiled as treasure the world pays dearly for. Could it be that your hidden irritations were preparing layers of glory unseen until now? Or think of the desert cactus, storing water in its thick skin, enduring seasons of drought, only to erupt suddenly with blossoms that shock the barren sand. Isn't this what your life resembles? A hidden reservoir that others assumed was dry, now bursting with a beauty no one expected. Even the mighty redwood tree begins as a seed so small it could be crushed between two fingers, yet grows to tower over forests for centuries. What lesson does this whisper? That your beginning never determines your ending. The ocean preaches this mystery. A tide, no matter how it retreats, is destined to return with greater force. In the same way, your past seasons of withdrawal were never proof of weakness, but preparation for a surge. As Ecclesiastes reminds us, He has made everything beautiful in its time. Ecclesiastes 3:11. If even the sea waits for its appointed rhythm, will not your appointed time carry even greater precision? Think about the eagle that soars after shedding its feathers. It must descend into a hidden place before it can ascend higher than ever. Could it be that your retreat, your hidden silence, was actually the launching pad for your greatest flight? Just as no wave can be stopped once heaven commands it forward, no delay can restrain what God has set in motion for you. Your blessing, your transfer, your breakthrough, none of these are staged to impress people. They are written to glorify God, not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, says the Lord of hosts. Zechariah 4:6. This is why you do not need validation from your critics. What is arriving is not about proving them wrong. It is about proving God true. Do you realize the difference? When heaven's fingerprints are on something, every attempt to discredit you only highlights the miracle more. Just as fire glows brighter in the darkness, your favor shines clearer under the shadow of doubt. What is impossible for flesh is irresistible for spirit, and the more they try to explain it away, the more undeniable it becomes. The arts have tried to echo this kind of divine defiance. In Shakespeare's The Tempest, Prospero declares, "We are such stuff as dreams are made on. Yet for the chosen ones it is more. You are not merely dreams. You are destiny, wrapped in divine breath." And when God breathes, the dust itself becomes a living being. Genesis 2:7. Doesn't that mean what looked lifeless in your past can rise as evidence of God's undeniable hand? Think of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, composed while the maestro was deaf. What the world thought disqualified him became the very ground from which eternal beauty rose. Likewise, what your doubters call disqualification will be the soil from which your testimony sings. Art, music, poetry, all conspire to declare what God ordains cannot be silenced. So stand tall, chosen one. This is not about luck, not about coincidence, not about human applause. It is the hand of God writing across the sky of your life in bold letters. It is I who called you. It is I who blessed you. And it is I who will sustain you. When the favor pours in, it will silence every question. When the evidence emerges, it will speak louder than words. This is your moment. Do not hide. Do not shrink. Do not apologize. Stand up, because what they called impossible, God has already done. And when you rise, every unseen chain shatters, and every generation after you will know. The impossible is only the beginning when heaven has spoken. This is not merely about material wealth, nor is it just about numbers in an account or possessions on display. It is a signpost pointing to something far greater: divine alignment, divine favor, and divine purpose. The flow you're about to experience carries the fingerprints of heaven on every detail. The blessing of the Lord makes you rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. Proverbs 10:22. When God funds a breakthrough, it is not fragile. It does not collapse under pressure, and it carries peace as its seal. How can men explain away what radiates peace, joy, and abundance at the same time? Isn't it true that when heaven moves, explanations fall short while evidence stands tall? God himself is underwriting this moment, and his mark will be etched into every layer of your testimony. People may attempt to rationalize it, to dissect it as though it were a psychological experiment, but their reasoning will hit the limits of human comprehension. Just as physicists cannot see the sound wave yet prove its reality by resonance, so too your breakthrough will resonate in ways undeniable. For the vision is yet for an appointed time. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Habakkuk 2:3. If the laws of physics bow to resonance, how much more will history bow to divine timing? The alignment of this transfer is like the careful architecture of a cathedral, each stone placed not by human hand but by heaven's design. Doesn't this suggest that your story has been under construction long before you could see the scaffolding? Chosen one, you have been set apart for this. Your breakthrough is not random, it is strategic. Just as a symphony pauses in silence before the crescendo, your waiting season was not an absence, it was the tension before the release. Be still and know that I am God, Psalm 46:10. That stillness was never empty, it was a recalibration, a divine moment of tuning your spirit like an instrument before the performance. And now the sound that will emerge from your life is one heaven itself composed. Could it be that the silence you endured was not abandonment, but God preparing the perfect acoustics for his glory in you? History gives us living examples of this unseen orchestration. Corrie ten Boom, the Dutch watchmaker who, during World War II, hid Jews from the Nazis at great personal risk. She later declared, "Never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God." Her story reveals that divine alignment does not always begin with visible success, but with hidden faithfulness that later unfolds into undeniable testimony. Doesn't that mirror your own story? What seemed ordinary and overlooked is now revealed as extraordinary design. If a watchmaker in a time of war could carry heaven's timing, how much more can you carry heaven's blueprint in a time of breakthrough? This wealth transfer is heaven-sent, and the proof will be in the manifestation. For promotion comes neither from the east, nor from the west, nor from the south. But God is the judge. He puts down one and sets up another. Psalm 75, 6-7. No committee can vote it away, no critic can cancel it, and no skeptic can bury what heaven has decreed. Do you see the irony? The more they question, the clearer the evidence becomes. Like light scattering through a prism, every attempt to block your favor will only reveal more of its colors. Isn't that just like God, to use resistance as the stage for revelation? Now, chosen one, it is time to activate your faith. This is not the moment to sit silently as if you are a spectator in your own story. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Proverbs 18:21. Speak into your tomorrow with the voice of heaven today. In the comments below, prophesy over yourself. Declare the abundance, declare the alignment, declare the breakthrough you are about to see. Do not wait for evidence to speak. Let faith write the script in advance. Type 777, not as empty digits, but as a sacred seal that you agree with heaven's decree over your life. For when your voice joins heaven's resonance, the impossible becomes inevitable. This moment is not a small sign. It is the divine symbol of God completing cycles and ushering in new seasons of overflow in your life. Every closed door, every unfinished chapter, every broken promise from the past is being sealed, and a new script is being written by heaven. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Philippians 1:6. Doesn't this tell you that the unfinished business of yesterday is not abandoned but completed by God Himself? What looked like detours and delays were actually part of the foundation stones being laid for this very hour. And just like the turning of seasons, when winter finally gives way to spring, no human hand can stop the blossoms from breaking forth. This is the rhythm of God's timing. It cannot be rushed, but neither can it be resisted once it begins. But don't stop there. Like this message, share it, subscribe, and remain until the end, because every moment you stay connected is a moment your spirit is being tuned to divine instruction. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Christ, Romans 10:17. Every word you hear today is more than sound. It is spiritual alignment entering your heart, planting seeds that will bloom into action. What if today is the day your ordinary listening becomes the birthplace of extraordinary transformation? And what if this simple act of obedience positions you for the doors you have been praying for all along? The reality is that spiritual momentum is built by consistent faith. Small acts like listening, reflecting, and believing create the pathways where miracles travel. Each moment you linger in God's word is like a stone added to a bridge, carrying you into your next dimension. This is not just a message, it is a call to action. Heaven is issuing an invitation, and the question is, will you engage? If you are willing and obedient, you will eat the good things of the land. Isaiah 1:19. The invitation is not passive. It requires your faith to respond. Don't let this moment slip through your hands like sand. Grasp it, and stand firm. Wealth transfer is too often reduced to the shallow idea of financial gain. But in the language of the Spirit, wealth includes wisdom, influence, health, creativity, and divine favor. Isn't it true that money without peace is poverty disguised, but peace with purpose is true abundance? This is why God's wealth transfer must be understood not as fleeting currency, but as a river of resources that flows through generations. And when that river touches your life, it nourishes more than you. It waters entire fields you may never see. In modern life, this principle is reflected. Mother Teresa, the Catholic nun who dedicated her life to serving the poor in Calcutta, once said, "Not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love." Her legacy was not measured in wealth or possessions, but in compassion and influence that touched millions. Doesn't that remind you that heaven's kind of wealth is not confined to money, but is revealed in eternal impact? What appeared insignificant in her hands, simple meals, words of comfort, and acts of mercy, became instruments of divine abundance that continue to echo today. And isn't it striking that true wealth leaves footprints not on bank ledgers, but on human souls? Her story proves that when purpose fuels action, the result is an inheritance that cannot fade. But history also gives us warnings. Bernie Madoff, once celebrated as a brilliant financier who orchestrated the largest Ponzi scheme in history. For years, people trusted him, believing in his promises of prosperity. Yet, his empire was built on deception, and when it collapsed, thousands lost everything, and his name became a global symbol of greed and destruction. Unlike Madoff's counterfeit wealth, which ended in ruin, your breakthrough is grounded in authenticity and God's truth. Can you see the contrast? One story ends in ashes, the other shines as a testimony of divine faithfulness. And isn't it sobering that while Madoff accumulated billions, he could not purchase peace, honor, or legacy? His tale stands as a reminder that what man builds on lies crumbles, but what God establishes endures. Scripture assures us again, the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. Proverbs 13:22. This transfer is not about greed, it is about stewardship, about equipping God's people to carry out his kingdom assignment. And isn't it fascinating that God entrusts abundance not to the loudest voice or the most powerful hand, but to the one whose heart is aligned? To whom much is given, much will be required. Luke 12:48. You are being called not just to receive, but to carry responsibility for generations to come. This is why the transfer you are about to step into is weighty. It comes with the call to build, to plant, to preserve, and to bless. Your abundance will not end with you. It will ripple outward, touching lives you may never meet, and shaping a legacy that speaks even after you are gone. So rise, chosen one. This is your moment to step forward, not back. Do not sit in silence when heaven is calling you to speak. Declare boldly, "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing." Psalm 23:1. Stand tall, because what heaven has ordained will not be undone. The season of lack has expired. The season of overflow has begun. And you are walking proof that when God completes a cycle, no one can reopen the door he has shut, and no one can close the gate he has flung wide open. And now, if this word has resonated with your spirit, let heaven see your agreement. Type 777 in the comments as a prophetic seal that you are stepping into your new season. But I want you to see it in a broader, more powerful light, chosen one. This wealth transfer encompasses far more than currency or coins. It is about stepping into influence, positioning, opportunities, and recognition. The Lord will make you the head, not the tail. If you pay attention to the commands of the Lord your God, you will always be at the top, never at the bottom. Deuteronomy 28:13. Can you imagine what it means when heaven itself declares your placement? This is about living in a realm where your life, your voice, and your actions carry undeniable weight. Doesn't it stir something inside you to realize that this isn't just about survival? It's about dominion. Every delay you faced was not denial. It was calibration, lining you up to step into the exact place heaven prepared. It is about walking into a season where your words shift atmospheres, where your presence carries authority, and where your decisions ripple outward like stones in water. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Matthew 5:14. Your assignment is not only to receive, but to shine so brightly that others are guided by your illumination. And when your light rises, will they not finally recognize what they once overlooked? For years, your family may have dismissed your dreams, your ideas, or even your faith. But doesn't Scripture promise, "The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone"? Psalm 118:22. The very thing they once mocked will become the very thing God elevates. Every whisper of doubt will only magnify the brilliance of your testimony when the unveiling happens. Think of nature itself, how the river carves valleys through unyielding stone, not by force, but by persistence. Isn't your story the same? That quiet persistence of faith that seemed weak has been shaping mountains all along. Or consider the wild eagle, once a fledgling hidden in the nest, now soaring where no predator dares to climb. Doesn't your journey mirror that of the eagle, hidden for a time, then lifted to heights beyond imagination? Your wealth transfer is like the oak tree. For years it grew silently beneath the soil, but when the moment arrived, it burst forth unshakable, covering entire fields with its shade. Even the butterfly, confined to a cocoon, reveals that confinement was never a prison but a transformation chamber. So it is with you. Your hidden season was shaping wings. The arts whisper the same truth. Michelangelo, who spent years laboring over the Sistine Chapel ceiling, often working in solitude, lying on his back in pain, unseen by the world below. Yet from that hidden labor emerged a masterpiece that still speaks of divine majesty centuries later. Isn't it striking that what was once created in exhaustion and obscurity became one of the most enduring visions of heaven on earth? In the same way, what has been birthed in the hidden chambers of your life is about to resound across generations. Humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. 1 Peter 5:6. Could it be that your due time has arrived? Every silence, every hidden labor, every unseen sacrifice was not wasted. It was tuning your life into heaven's symphony. And now, when you rise, the world will not just hear your voice. They will hear the harmony of heaven through you. This wealth transfer is not about possessions alone. It is about legacy. It is about having the ability to impact others, to create change, and to establish something that endures beyond your lifetime. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Proverbs 13:22. Isn't it more than money? It is wisdom, influence, and the power to shape history. What your family never imagined for you, God has already written with his hand. Their silence was not the end of your story. It was the quiet before the unveiling. Just as seeds sleep in winter only to awaken in spring, your story was resting until heaven commanded its season. Now the time of awakening has come, and nothing can stop the roots that have already taken hold beneath the surface. So rise, chosen one. Step into this new dimension, not with hesitation, but with holy boldness. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. Isaiah 61. This is not the time to shrink back. It is the hour to stand tall. Lift your head, straighten your shoulders, and step forward, because heaven has decreed your elevation. And when you rise, the world will see not your strength, but God's fingerprints all over your story. You are not entering a season of empty promises, but of divine fulfillment. Let your spirit agree, let your faith move, and let your courage announce, the impossible is now reality. It's about being positioned for greatness, for influence, and for purpose. God is elevating you in every area of your life, spiritually, emotionally, and even strategically. The Lord will make you the head and not the tail. You shall only go up and not down. Deuteronomy 28:13. Can you imagine what it means when heaven itself arranges your placement on the map of destiny? Those who once doubted you will not be able to deny the evidence of what He has done. They may try to reduce your rise to chance, but they will have no vocabulary to explain it. Isn't it true that the hand of God writes stories no historian can erase? Every step you've taken has been part of a divine equation, where each variable, even your pain, contributes to the solution God is unveiling. This positioning is not just promotion, it is architecture built to last. The journey you've walked has not been easy. Chosen one, you have been through seasons of rejection, silence, and even despair. We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned. 2 Corinthians 4:8-9. Doesn't that describe what you lived through? You may have wondered why God's timing seemed so delayed, why the heavens felt silent, why doors shut in your face one after another. But silence is not absence, it is architecture. Just as a cathedral is not built in a day, your spirit is being carved brick by brick into a vessel that can sustain glory. Do you see now that the scaffolding was never punishment, but preparation? And even when no one applauded, the master builder continued to lay stone upon stone, ensuring your foundation would endure every storm. Every hardship, every no you received, every slammed door was not rejection, but recalibration. Think of it as frequency alignment. When an instrument is out of tune, the orchestra pauses until resonance is restored. In the same way, God paused certain seasons to recalibrate your inner frequency to match heaven's song. For everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. Ecclesiastes 3:1. What looked like a delay was resonance training. Isn't it extraordinary that even your pain was an echo chamber shaping your sound for destiny? In physics, resonance amplifies sound far beyond its natural reach. So too, your trials have amplified your testimony, preparing it to be heard farther than you can imagine. What you thought was silence was really heaven tuning your strings for the symphony about to begin. And you are not the same person you were in those seasons. Trials changed your internal architecture. Suffering carved new capacity. Psychologists speak of post-traumatic growth, where adversity becomes the very soil where resilience is planted. In biblical language, after you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace will Himself restore you and make you strong, firm, and steadfast. 1 Peter 5:10. Can you sense how every rejection actually sculpted your resilience? Your scars have become sacred blueprints, proving you can carry more than before. The weight that once broke you has now trained you to lift what others cannot. And the very cracks you carry have become windows through which God's light shines even brighter. Isn't it a paradox that the same wounds that once caused shame are now the marks of your authority? In modern life, examples shine through. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the German pastor who resisted the Nazi regime, wrote from prison, "The ultimate test of a moral society is the kind of world that it leaves to its children." He was silenced, imprisoned, and ultimately executed. Yet his words still resound as a prophetic voice to this day. Doesn't his story remind us that seasons of silence often become seeds of influence that outlive us? Like Bonhoeffer, what felt like burial in your life was actually planting, and what is planted must rise. His story proves that even under the most crushing weight, A voice aligned with truth cannot be silenced. And doesn't that reveal the same pattern in your story? That what was pressed down in you is now being resurrected in glory. So rise, chosen one. The doubts that haunted you are now the very backdrop against which God's glory will shine brightest. The delays that once made you question will soon make you testify. He makes all things beautiful in its time. Ecclesiastes 3:11. This is your time, your unveiling, your elevation. Step into it with holy boldness. Lift your head, straighten your shoulders, and declare with faith, you are not who you used to be. You are who God has prepared you to become. The race you thought you were losing was only paused while heaven reset the track in your favor. And when you step forward now, you will not step alone. You will walk in cadence with the one who called you, sustained you, and now elevates you. You have been tested, refined, and strengthened. The fire you walked through was never to destroy you, but to shape you. For you, O God, tested us, you refined us like silver. Psalm 66:10. Now you stand stronger, wiser, and more discerning. Doesn't it amaze you that the very seasons which tried to break you have now become the evidence of your unshakable spirit? God was building your character and resilience because He knew that when this wealth transfer arrived, you would need maturity to sustain it. What felt like a delay was actually designed. Can you see how your scars have become signs of your preparation? And isn't it true that scars, though silent, often preach louder than victories? They prove that what should have ended you has only established you. The waiting season was never wasted. It was a time of inner growth, a time of sharpening vision, and a time of aligning your heart with His will. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. Isaiah 40:31. Waiting was not weakness, it was training. Every unanswered prayer was like weight on a bar, pressing you into greater spiritual muscle. Didn't you notice how silence forced you to listen deeper, and how closed doors taught you to lean, not on your own understanding, but on His? Those years were not a pause button, they were heaven's classroom. And like a seed hidden in the soil, what looked like stillness was actually the beginning of an underground miracle. The roots you built in that darkness are what will keep you steady in the light. Now you are ready to carry the blessing and steward it with wisdom. Chosen one, this transfer is not just about receiving, but about managing divine trust. It is required that those who have been given a trust must prove faithful. 1 Corinthians 4:2. Could it be that your preparation was not about proving yourself to people, but proving your capacity before God? You are stepping into a blessing that is weighty, not fragile, and that weight requires faithfulness. Doesn't it stir your heart to realize that heaven considered you capable of carrying something your ancestors never could? And isn't it powerful to think that your preparation was not just for you, but for generations after you? The oil you carry now is not only to bless your house, but to overflow into the houses of others. The wealth transfer may begin in ways that seem small or insignificant. It might start with a small opportunity, a new connection, or a simple idea that catches your attention. Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin. Zechariah 4:10. Isn't it humbling that what feels like a tiny seed in your hand may grow into an entire orchard for generations to come? You may look at it and think, is this it? Is this the breakthrough I've been waiting for? But don't be fooled by appearances. A whisper can ignite a movement. A single candle can light a cathedral. And just as rivers begin with streams too small to notice, so your breakthrough may first appear hidden before it floods your life with abundance. What starts as a spark often becomes the fire that warms nations. In modern times, this truth is reflected. J.K. Rowling, the British author of Harry Potter, once lived in poverty, rejected by publishers, raising her child as a single mother. Yet the manuscript she wrote in cafes became one of the most influential literary works of our age. Doesn't her story show that what begins small, overlooked and dismissed, can become a phenomenon that shapes culture? What men laughed at, heaven used as proof that destiny cannot be silenced. And if a simple story penned in obscurity could change the world, how much more can your obedience written in faith alter the course of history? Rowling's journey reminds us that the pen of persistence always writes louder than the voice of doubt. But history also warns us with sobering examples. Enron, once considered one of the most innovative energy companies in America, rose to staggering wealth and influence. Yet beneath the surface was deception, fraud, and arrogance. When truth surfaced, the company collapsed overnight, destroying livelihoods, savings, and reputations. Can you see the difference? Counterfeit wealth is temporary and collapses under its own weight, but heaven's transfer is eternal and builds legacies that stand. Isn't it clear that what is rooted in lies ends in ruin, but what is rooted in God multiplies? Enron's fall shows that when man builds on greed, the tower crumbles. But when God builds on truth, the house stands forever. Their story is not just a warning, it is a mirror of what happens when trust is betrayed. The blessing of the Lord makes you rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. Proverbs 10:22. That is the seal over your story. This is not a fleeting success or a fragile accomplishment. It is a blessing without sorrow. So rise, chosen one. Step into your inheritance with courage. The testing has ended, the training is complete, and the unveiling has begun. Lift your voice, lift your faith, and lift your eyes, for the season of stewardship has arrived, and the evidence of God's hand will be undeniable. And when you stand in this moment, you will know that the pain was worth it, the silence was sacred, and the delay was divine. This is the hour where the impossible bows to the inevitable. What may look small right now will soon grow into something massive. God rarely begins with the flood, he begins with the seed. Though your beginning was small, yet your latter end would increase abundantly. Job 8:7. That seed will grow, multiply, and overflow in ways you cannot yet comprehend. Doesn't a mighty oak once rest unseen inside a tiny acorn? Doesn't the river begin as a spring no one notices? The wealth will not trickle. It will pour. It will come rapidly, unexpectedly, and in overwhelming abundance. What you call small today is heaven's blueprint for greatness tomorrow. And just as the dawn begins with a faint glow before flooding the sky, so your destiny is already rising beyond the horizon. And when that overflow begins, your family will be stunned. The Lord has done great things for us, and we are filled with joy. Psalm 126:3. They won't know how to process it, for their minds have been shaped by scarcity, while God has been shaping you for abundance. Can you see how your life will become a living testimony that their worldview cannot explain? Just as lightning cracks open the sky without warning, your breakthrough will split open the atmosphere of your family's story. What they once dismissed as impossible will become undeniable proof that God reigns. Their silence will turn into gasps, and their doubt will collapse into awe. Isn't it beautiful that your transformation will be the mirror in which they finally see the power of God? But the key is to trust that God's hand is in it, even when the beginning doesn't look impressive. Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin. Zechariah 4:10. A seed buried in the soil looks lifeless, but inside, unseen roots are already forming. Could it be that your hidden season was God's way of ensuring your roots went deep before your fruit appeared? Just as the caterpillar's stillness looks like death, but conceals transformation, your quiet beginnings are concealing glory about to burst forth. The first drops of rain are never the whole storm. They are the announcement that the heavens have opened. Isn't that what God is doing to you now? And when the storm finally arrives, you will look back and realize those tiny drops were heaven's gentle way of preparing you for the flood of blessing. This wealth transfer is not just for you, chosen one. It is for your entire family line. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Proverbs 13:22. For generations, your bloodline may have been trapped in cycles of lack, limitation, and small thinking. But now, the chains of poverty are breaking, and the pattern of scarcity is ending. You are becoming the new branch on the family tree, the one that grows upward and outward instead of curling inward in fear. Can you see how your obedience today becomes the inheritance of tomorrow? The seed in your hand is destined to become shade for those yet unborn. And isn't it astonishing that what you embrace in faith today may shape the prayers of your grandchildren tomorrow? This is not about one life being changed. It is about entire generations being set free. Art and storytelling whisper this truth. In Beethoven's Ode to Joy, written after he had gone deaf, the music explodes from a quiet theme into a thunderous chorus declaring triumph. Isn't your life the same? What began in silence will erupt in symphony. The glory of this latter house shall be greater than the former. Haggai 2:9. Your small beginnings are not weakness. They are the overture before the crescendo. Just as audiences rise in awe when the chorus bursts forth, your family will rise in stunned wonder when God's chorus of blessing breaks over your life, and the world will know this was no accident, but the hand of heaven itself. If Beethoven could compose joy in silence, surely you can carry victory even after seasons of waiting. Doesn't that confirm that what the world calls limitation, God calls preparation? So rise, chosen one. Lift your eyes from the seed in your hand and fix them on the harvest that heaven is releasing. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine. Ephesians 3:20. Do not measure your future by the size of your beginning. Measure it by the faithfulness of your God. The time of smallness is ending. The era of overflow is beginning. Stand boldly, because the story of lack is finished, and the story of abundance has begun. And when you walk into this new chapter, you will not just carry blessing, you will embody proof that God is faithful to complete what he begins. Isn't it time to believe that your seed season has already shifted into a harvest season? Those patterns have shaped the way your family has viewed money, success, and even themselves. They were trapped in psychological frameworks that acted like invisible ceilings, limiting how far they thought they could go. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. For decades, their thought frequency has been tuned to lack, to fear, to settling for less. But now, God is using you to disrupt those frequencies, to break those cycles of defeat. Doesn't it stir you to realize that heaven has chosen you as the seismic shift, the one who breaks generational resonance and introduces a new vibration of abundance? Just as an architect redraws blueprints for a crumbling building, God has placed you as the master design for your family's new foundation. The blessing you are receiving will disrupt everything your family once considered normal. Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? Isaiah 43:19. Their version of normal was lack. Yours is going to overflow. Their version of normal was debt. Yours is going to be divine supply. Can you see how the arrival of this blessing is not just an event, but a disruption? A reordering of family history. Even physics teaches us that a system exposed to a stronger force must realign. So, it is with you. The stronger force of God's favor is forcing everything in your family line to realign with heaven's pattern. Isn't it extraordinary that the very flow of blessing in your life is becoming the law of motion for generations to come? This is the moment that ends the cycles of struggle. The yoke shall be destroyed because of the anointing. Isaiah 10:27. The struggles that were psychological chains for your parents are breaking into dust beneath your feet. Have you noticed how cycles tend to repeat like echo patterns until someone breaks them? You are that breaker. In the language of architecture, the scaffolding of old poverty is being torn down so a new structure of blessing can rise. In the language of psychology, the limiting beliefs that shaped their identity are being dismantled neuron by neuron. Isn't it powerful that heaven is not just giving you wealth, but rewiring the very mental architecture of your family's bloodline? You are not only receiving wealth for yourself, you are receiving it for your family. Believe in the Lord your God, so shall ye be established. Believe his prophets, so shall ye prosper. 2 Chronicles 20:20. The wealth transfer may begin in your hands, but it will not end there. Like a resonant frequency that spreads outward, it will impact your children, your grandchildren, and every generation that follows. Don't you see? You're not just receiving a blessing, you're becoming a living inheritance. Isn't it astonishing that what your ancestors could not secure, God has chosen to secure through you? This wealth transfer will create a new standard for those who come after you. Your children, your grandchildren, and future generations will walk on roads you have paved today. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Proverbs 13:22. Where there was poverty, there will be prosperity. Where there was limitation, there will be abundance. Malala Yousafzai, the youngest Nobel laureate, who transformed her suffering into a legacy of education for millions. Isn't it the same principle? What began as her personal fight became a generational gift. In the same way, your breakthrough today is not an end. It is a doorway through which countless lives will pass. So rise, chosen one. Stand as the generational architect heaven has called you to be. Lift your eyes and see the foundation you are laying. No longer cycles of defeat, but cathedrals of abundance. No longer whispers of fear, but songs of faith. For the Lord your God has blessed you in all the work of your hands. Deuteronomy 2:7. This is not just your story, it is your family's new future. The bloodline has shifted, the resonance has changed, and the inheritance of heaven is yours to carry forward. Walk in it with boldness, for the chains are broken, and the new chapter has begun. This is your moment to break free from what has held your family back for years. If the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. John 8:36. God's purpose for this wealth transfer is not simply to make you wealthy. It is for a mission far greater than personal comfort. Doesn't it move you to know that heaven's goal is bigger than bank accounts? The mission extends beyond your own life, your own years, and even your own name. What you're stepping into will rewrite legacies, shift atmospheres, and carry weight long after you're gone. Isn't it powerful that God is using you as the turning point for an entire bloodline? Your life is becoming the hinge on which your family's future swings, and once that door opens, no one will be able to shut it again. This wealth transfer is for stewardship, not selfishness. God is giving you resources not just to enjoy, but to multiply and use for his kingdom. It is required that those who have been given a trust must prove faithful. 1 Corinthians 4:2. You are not just receiving, you are being entrusted. Every resource placed in your hand carries a divine assignment. Can you see how heaven has chosen you as a vessel, not a container? The blessing you carry is designed to flow through you, not stop with you. What seemed like a struggle in past years was actually heaven testing if you could handle overflow without losing your faith. And isn't it incredible that the very pain you once despised has become the proof that you can carry what others would have dropped? With this blessing, you are called to build legacy, build opportunity, and build lasting impact. Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Psalm 127:1. Your wealth is not just for you, it is for the benefit of others. You will be positioned to create jobs, to provide solutions, and to open doors for those who have been waiting for an opportunity. Isn't it amazing that what begins in your life will ripple into countless lives you may never meet? Every act of stewardship will become a stone in the cathedral of God's kingdom. Doesn't that reveal why the blessing is so weighty? Because it is designed to outlive you. And what you build now will stand as a testimony long after your name is only spoken in whispers. In modern times, this truth is reflected. Andrew Carnegie, once a poor Scottish immigrant, became one of the wealthiest industrialists in America. Yet he famously declared, "The man who dies rich dies disgraced," and gave away nearly all his fortune to build libraries, schools, and foundations that continue impacting millions today. Doesn't his story show that true wealth is not measured by what you keep, but by what you release? Just as Carnegie's vision outlived him, your obedience will build bridges for generations after you. And if a man without covenant could leave such a legacy, how much more can you, chosen by God, leave a mark that reverberates into eternity? This is not about philanthropy alone. It is about prophetic assignment. But history also warns us. Take the example of Ferdinand Marcos, the former president of the Philippines, who hoarded billions through corruption while his nation suffered. For a time he sat in luxury, but eventually he was exiled, his name tainted, and his wealth unable to save his legacy. Isn't it clear that wealth built on greed collapses under its own weight, while wealth built on stewardship multiplies into eternity? The difference between blessing and curse lies in motive. One seeks to hoard, the other seeks to serve. And your story, chosen one, has been written for service. Just as Marcos's empire crumbled into shame, so too every counterfeit kingdom eventually fell. But what God builds through you will not only stand, it will flourish. You will be enriched in every way so that you can be generous on every occasion. 2 Corinthians 9:11. God has chosen you to be a vessel through which others will be blessed. This is more than success. It is significant. This is more than accumulation. It is multiplication. So rise, chosen one. Step boldly into your mission. The chains of limitation are broken, the old story is gone, and the new season has begun. Stand tall, because you're not just carrying wealth, you're carrying destiny. And through you, generations will know that God is faithful. And when you step forward, you will see doors open that no man can shut, because you were never meant to simply receive, you were meant to transform. This is not about consumption, it is about contribution. It is more blessed to give than to receive. Acts 20:25. God has given you this wealth so that you can be a blessing not only to your family, but to your community and the world beyond. Doesn't it stir your heart to realize that what heaven places in your hands is never meant to stop with you? The wealth you are receiving is for purpose, a purpose that extends beyond your name, beyond your comfort, and beyond your lifetime. Could it be that God trusted you to become the channel through which His resources flow? The more you release, the more you will see heaven refill. And when you pour into others, you will discover that you were never running dry, but drinking from a fountain that cannot be exhausted. Purpose always goes beyond self. Seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Matthew 6:33. This is why you do not need to explain or justify this blessing to anyone. The fruit of your life will be the proof. Isn't it true that a tree does not argue about being fruitful? It simply bears fruit, and the harvest silences every doubt. You don't need to defend what God is doing. His fingerprints will be too clear to ignore. Just as the sun does not apologize for shining, you will not need to apologize for rising. And when the light breaks forth from your life, those who mocked will have no words left. Even silence becomes a sermon when the evidence is undeniable. There will be no need to argue or defend when the transfer begins to manifest. By their fruits you shall know them. Matthew 7:20. Evidence speaks louder than explanation. When blessing arrives, it will be so evident that no one will be able to deny it. People may question you at first. They may try to rationalize how you achieved what you achieved. But can human logic explain divine orchestration? Isn't it true that what is born in heaven cannot be confined to earthly reasoning? The truth is that the evidence will be undeniable. Your life will become a living testimony, written not in ink, but in outcomes. And in that moment, your story will preach louder than any sermon, declaring that the impossible is possible with God. Nature itself preaches this truth. The bamboo, for years it grows unseen underground, building a network of roots, until suddenly it shoots upward, rising meters in just weeks. Isn't that like your story? Hidden preparation before undeniable elevation. Or think of the volcano, silent for decades, even centuries, until one eruption changes the entire landscape. Could it be that your silence has only been the prelude to heaven's eruption of favor? And like a lion that walks in calm before unleashing its roar, your season of quiet strength is about to release a sound no one can ignore. Even the ocean reminds us of this pattern. Tides retreat only to return stronger, and so your life will surge back with a force that cannot be resisted. The arts echo this mystery. In Mozart's Requiem, the music begins in hushed tones, almost fragile, before it swells into movements that fill cathedrals with awe. Isn't your journey the same? What began quietly in obscurity will rise into a symphony that cannot be denied. The Lord will vindicate me. Your love, Lord, endures forever. Psalm 138:8. Your vindication will not come through arguments, but through results. And when the crescendo comes, every critic will be silenced, not by your words, but by the undeniable harmony of God's blessing resounding through your life. Like the choir that rises in power after a long pause, your life will become a chorus that even heaven applauds. And isn't that the moment you've been waiting for? The day when your hidden melody becomes a public anthem. So rise, chosen one. Stop fearing the questions, stop rehearsing explanations. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Isaiah 54:17. You were not called to argue, you were called to demonstrate. Stand tall. Let the fruit of your life be the testimony, and let the evidence of God's hand be your defense. What begins small in your hands will grow unstoppable in His, and soon the world will have no choice but to confess, surely the Lord has done this. Your silence will be turned into songs, your waiting will become wonder, and your obedience will stand as a monument of God's faithfulness. And when you rise, every chain of doubt will fall powerless at your feet. You won't have to explain the blessing, chosen one. The blessing of the Lord makes you rich, and He adds no sorrow with it. Proverbs 10:22. Your lifestyle will testify on your behalf. The peace you carry, the opportunities that suddenly open, and the favor that seems to follow you like a shadow, these will be the undeniable proof. Isn't it amazing that you won't have to argue or defend, because your life itself will become the courtroom where God's evidence is displayed? The blessing will shine brighter than any explanation. Even those who doubted you will be confronted by what they see, not what they hear. And isn't that the beauty of divine elevation, that it silences opposition without a single word spoken? Every new door that opens will stand as another exhibit in heaven's case for your destiny. This wealth transfer has a supernatural signature. It is stamped with heaven's design, woven with God's favor, grace, and authority. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights. James 1:17. This blessing is not of this world. It carries the fragrance of eternity, like the resonance of a tuning fork that sets the whole room vibrating. God's favor on your life will set environments shifting around you. Isn't it powerful to realize that heaven's frequency has been tuned to your life, and everywhere you go, others will sense it, even if they cannot explain it? You are carrying not just resources, you are carrying divine energy that transforms atmospheres. And when people step into your presence, they will unknowingly step into the vibration of heaven itself. It is heaven's scent, impossible to counterfeit. People will see it and wonder how it happened, but their logic will fail them. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness with God. 1 Corinthians 3:19. Just as physics teaches us that light bends differently when it passes through another dimension, your story bends differently because it has passed through heaven's dimension. Doesn't it astonish you that the same people who wrote you off will now stand confused, unable to rationalize what God has done? And could it be that their questions are not meant to shame you, but to draw them closer to the source who authored your breakthrough? The more they seek explanations, the more they will encounter mystery, and the mystery itself will point back to God. Family members who once doubted you will be forced to confront the reality of God's hand on your life. The Lord has done this, and it is marvelous in our eyes. Psalm 118, verse 23. What was once dismissed as fantasy will stand before them as fact. Your testimony will become the architectural blueprint of hope for your bloodline. Think of it as divine engineering. The old structure of doubt has collapsed, and a new cathedral of faith has risen in its place. Isn't it humbling that God would use you as the cornerstone for your family's transformation? What they see in you will no longer be denial, but destiny unfolding. Every miracle will be another stone in the house He is building, a sanctuary of proof that cannot be denied. In modern life, this truth is reflected. Pope John Paul II, who rose from war-torn Poland, once said, "The future starts today, not tomorrow." His life became a testimony not just of personal resilience, but of how faith and courage could shift the course of nations. Doesn't his story remind you that true blessing carries authority beyond personal gain? It impacts generations, societies, even histories. And in the same way, your wealth transfer is not an isolated event. It is a ripple that will touch countless lives in ways you cannot yet imagine. Like John Paul II, you are stepping into a role where your testimony will not be confined to your household. It will reverberate through entire communities, and your story will be quoted long after you are gone, because it was authored by eternity. So rise, chosen one. Step forward not with fear, but with holy boldness. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. Isaiah 61. This is not the time to hide. It is the time to walk as living proof. You are not carrying just finances. You are carrying heaven's signature. You are not walking in luck. You are walking in legacy. And when you rise, the world will have no choice but to say, "Surely this is the Lord's doing." Every step you take will echo as a declaration that the old limits are gone and the new season has begun. Isn't it time for you to stand tall, knowing heaven has stamped its seal on your life? The favor will be undeniable, chosen one, and it will break down the walls of disbelief. No good thing does He withholds from those whose walk is blameless. Psalm 84:11. Over time, those who questioned you will begin to see the consistency of God's blessing, and they will know beyond doubt that this wealth is divinely ordained. What seems impossible to man is natural to God, and His favor will be the signature on everything you touch. Isn't it extraordinary that the very areas where you once struggled will become the very arenas where God's glory shines? Your rise will not be random. It will be systematic, steady, and undeniable, a testimony written line by line for all to read. At first, your family may not believe what is happening. They may question how you went from struggling to prospering, how the one they once overlooked is now flourishing. The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Psalm 118:22. But as they watch the transformation unfold, their perspective will shift. What they once thought impossible will stand before them as living reality. Isn't it humbling to know that God uses your story not just to bless you, but to rewrite the thinking of those around you? Over time, the mockery will turn to amazement, and amazement will turn to faith. And doesn't Scripture remind us that faith comes by hearing, but sometimes it comes by seeing as well? Your success will inspire them to believe in greater things for their own lives. With man, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. Matthew 19:26. The wealth transfer you are experiencing will challenge their old beliefs about money, success, and possibility. You will become the living proof that God can do exceedingly abundantly above all that they could ask or think. Could it be that your breakthrough is the spark that sets an entire household ablaze with faith? Isn't it powerful that what began as your private struggle is becoming their public awakening? What they once thought was luck will soon be recognized as legacy. In our world today, this truth has been reflected. Oprah Winfrey, once a young girl raised in poverty and hardship, overcame unimaginable challenges to become one of the most influential women in media. She often said, turn your wounds into wisdom. Doesn't her journey show that what begins in brokenness can become a platform of blessing? Just as Oprah's voice has inspired millions around the world, your testimony will inspire your family to rise beyond limitation. What began as pain will become the very proof that God can transform ashes into beauty and impossibility into influence. But history also gives us sobering warnings. Pablo Escobar, once one of the richest men in the world through drug trafficking and violence. For a time, he ruled with unimaginable wealth and power, but his empire was built on destruction. Eventually, he was hunted down, his fortune scattered, and his legacy stained with blood and shame. Isn't it clear that when wealth is built outside of God's will, it collapses under its own corruption? The difference is undeniable. Counterfeit wealth destroys, but divine wealth builds. And doesn't this remind you that stewardship is not just about managing money, but managing destiny itself? In this season of abundance, it is crucial that you remain grounded. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world, yet forfeit his soul? Mark 8:36. The wealth you are receiving is not just for display, it is for purpose. Stay humble. Stay focused. Remember that this blessing is not for your own glory. Isn't it sobering to realize that abundance without humility is a trap, but abundance with stewardship is a triumph? God has entrusted you with this wealth so you can make an impact on others. Stay connected to the mission He has given you, for what He has placed in your hands is not just currency, it is kingdom capital. So rise, chosen one. To whom much is given, much will be required. Luke 12:48. This is your moment to walk in abundance, not arrogance, to build legacy, not vanity. Use what God has given wisely, for the world will watch how you steward His trust. Stand tall, because your testimony is not only your proof, it is your assignment. And through you, generations will know that when God moves, no one can deny it. Guard against pride and keep your heart aligned with God's will. God opposes the proud but shows favor to the humble. James 4:6. Keep your eyes fixed on purpose and continue to serve others with the blessings you've received. The wealth transfer is not just about what you can accumulate. It is about what you can give, what you can build, and what you can release into the lives of others. Isn't it true that rivers don't drink their own water and trees don't eat their own fruit? In the same way, your life has been designed to carry blessing outward, not inward. Could it be that your greatest joy will not come from holding, but from releasing? This wealth transfer is unshakable, undeniable, and unstoppable. For the gifts and the calling of God are irrevocable. Romans 11:29. It has been funded by heaven itself, and no man can cancel what God has signed. Family members may doubt at first, but soon they will see with their own eyes that this transfer is real. Isn't it powerful that the very people who whispered impossible will one day testify, it was God? The mountain of disbelief cannot withstand the avalanche of blessing that is rolling into your life. Doesn't nature itself show us that once the tide turns, no hand can push the ocean back? Stand firm in your faith, for storms may rise, but the roots of your destiny go deep. Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord. He will be like a tree planted by the water. Jeremiah 17:7-8. Walk boldly into your destiny, for hesitation is no longer your portion. Could it be that your entire waiting season was simply heaven's way of strengthening your roots before showing your branches? Isn't it the same as the eagle that soars higher when the wind resists it, or the seed that must break apart before it can grow? Opposition only proves that the breakthrough is ready to emerge. You have been chosen to carry this blessing, and no one can stop it. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. Embrace the wealth, embrace the influence, and embrace the legacy being created through your life. Just as spring cannot be halted by the remnants of winter, so your season of abundance cannot be stopped by yesterday's struggle. Isn't it amazing that the God who hung galaxies in balance has also balanced your future with promise? The doors that God is opening are doors that no man can shut. What he has sealed, no critic, no skeptic, and no enemy can overturn. The arts echo this truth. In Beethoven's Fidelio, the opera of freedom and triumph, the oppressed are released, and the prison walls crumble as voices rise in victory. Isn't that the same theme heaven is writing in your life? What once confined you is breaking, and the sound of your testimony will rise like a chorus no one can silence. When the Lord restores the fortunes of his people, we will be like those who dream. Psalm 126:1. Your breakthrough is not quiet. It is symphonic, undeniable, resounding in every corner of your family's story. So rise, chosen one. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God goes with you. Deuteronomy 31:6. Stand firm and walk confidently, because your breakthrough is not coming. It is here. The blessing has been signed, the legacy has been written, and the doors have been opened. Lift your head, straighten your shoulders, and step boldly forward. This is not the hour to shrink back. It is the hour to embrace the fullness of your calling. And when you walk, heaven will march with you, and nothing on earth or in hell will be able to stop it. Chosen one, this is the hour when God is proving himself faithful in your story. The very areas where your family said impossible are becoming the very places where heaven declares it is finished. What looked like limitation is now turning into legacy. What looked like defeat is now being reshaped into destiny. And soon, even those who doubted will stand in awe and whisper, "Surely this is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes." Never forget, this wealth transfer, this breakthrough, this elevation was never about chance. It has always been about God's purpose over your life. Stay humble, stay faithful, stay aligned, because what has begun in your life will ripple through generations. You are not just living for yourself, you are living as a testimony for those who will come after you. If this message has spoken into your spirit, I encourage you, like, share, and comment to let the world know you are walking into your impossible season. Type 777 in the comments as a prophetic act of agreement with what heaven is releasing over you. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next word in season. To every person watching, whether you've supported through a super thanks or simply by showing up here week after week, I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. You are part of this journey, part of this family, and every seed of encouragement you've sown has helped carry this message further than you know. And now, may the Lord bless you, keep you, and cause His face to shine upon you. May His favor surround you like a shield, and may every impossible in your life turn into undeniable proof that God still reigns. Your breakthrough is here, your legacy is secure, and your future is bright. In Jesus' mighty name, Amen.